Season 2 of Loki has landed on Disney Plus with 3 episodes released so far in another 6-episode season. But do you know what the budgets are for these Disney Marvel streaming TV shows? Any idea? Well, for Loki Season 2, it's a whopping $141.3 million. That works out to almost $25 million per episode. If you had $25 million in the bank, would you buy an episode of Loki? That's some perspective for you.
It really puts perspective on things, doesn't it?
Not too much. There's too much
yeah.
perspective now.
So I'll be honest, I really try to find reasons to like Disney Marvel TV shows. I do. I give them a chance. They initially feel like they may have potential, but never result in a compelling or entertaining TV show in the end. Disney Marvel doesn't even come close to getting its money's worth when they spend almost $150 million for 6 episodes of TV. But hey, who cares? It's their money, right? I guess maybe the shareholders. Painful. Compared to most Disney Marvel TV shows, Loki had, at the very least, an ambitious storyline. But I am absolutely fatigued with all of this multiverse and time travel stuff. Loki started with an interesting concept, but it was actually Owen Wilson paired with Tom Hiddleston that turned out to be one of the only good things about this entire show. Tom Hiddleston is the kind of actor that captures your attention, and in the role of Loki, it's hard to envision anyone else. Owen Wilson adds a sense of cool with his natural comedic acting style that meshes well with Hiddleston, which is a good thing because the sheer amount of babbling dialogue takes the pacing and turns it into a literal snail's pace at times. It takes the concepts of time and multiverse to a whole new level and is supposed to be a setup for supervillain Kang the Conqueror. Despite Loki being one of the best rated Disney Marvel Plus TV streaming shows, it will still probably push more viewers away from the MCU and leave an ever-shrinking contingent of Marvel fans. The first episode in Season 2 starts off with Loki, a god, running away in fear from a handful of humans. He's not wearing a collar, which was the plot device used in Season 1 to keep his powers in check. Does he even have any god powers left to speak of? I mean, transpose Loki with Thor, and you really start to get an idea of how badly Loki has been nerfed. Could you see Chris Hemsworth running away like a scared little child from a few regular humans? Episode 1 is a scattered mess and starts with Loki being infected with time splitting, where he randomly phases in and out of time. The cure? Well, get your pen and paper ready, kids. Insert a temporal oral extractor into the temporal loom to extract Loki from the time stream as Loki prunes himself. Did you get that? Because I can repeat it.
Please, please, please?
No, I won't.
Fine.
So it starts to get worse for Mobius and Loki. The temporal loom is going to explode because it needs to be retrofitted with something to fix it, as there are too many time branches that are causing a bottleneck. Yup, every timeline of every universe is being managed right here on Earth. Now that wouldn't attract much attention from other powerful beings, would it? No. If you like girl bosses, then you'll love this episode because you get 3 of them in one room at one table. And there's a sleeping old man at the table. And I'm thinking that we're supposed to be curious as to who he is. Well, I really don't care. I mean, really, I do not care. To add another problem to Loki's long-growing list, General Dox, that's her, General Dox, is raiding the armory to find Sylvie and kill her, while Sylvie has stumbled into a McDonald's at the very end of the episode. I mean, there is just so much going on. I'm so excited for episode 2. In episode 2, Loki is given some of his god powers to start the episode. But don't worry, they'll disappear shortly thereafter. They capture X5, who is General Dox's pit bull, who's now become a mega popular actor in the sacred timeline. So they torture him, because why use Loki's god power to get information as to where Sylvie is when they can use some big clunky device to torture him into revealing the information? But best of all, they now have X5's Tempad, a MacGuffin plot device to fill holes in the script so that the writers don't have to waste their time to have to write interesting and logical solutions, so they can get to Starbucks early for their mid-afternoon frappuccino. So they end up finding Sylvie, who now works at that McDonald's she visited. A god, working at McDonald's taking orders as a cashier. I'll have a large Big Mac meal with a 10-piece of McNuggets with 1 sweet and sour sauce and maybe 1 hot mustard.
How much will that set me back?
$9.95.
That come with fries?
This is of course called product placement. I have no idea how much McDonald's paid for it, but they paid for a full 1/3 of the show's set location. Then they find out from X5 that General Docs is going to the same McDonald's in every timeline. Billions of them, and blowing them up. This is their plan to kill all the Sylvies. Now, the problem for Loki is that he has to find General Docs. But they find her. How? Sylvie touches X5, and 88 seconds later in showtime, Sylvie and Loki have put an end to General Docs' evil plan. But before the episode ends, they get a hit on Renslayer's Tempad. A lucky break because now everyone knows where they have to go for the beginning of episode 3. And the writers don't have to think of creative ways to make it all work, so now they can have a blueberry scone with their frappuccino.
After all these years, things are finally starting to go my way.
Episode 3 starts off in Chicago, 1868, with Renslayer and Miss Minutes. Yep, that's her. We literally have a character speaking to a cartoon clock. Renslayer is there to drop off the plans for the TVA and all of the secrets of time in the universe to a young variant of He Who Remains, Mr. Victor Timely. Now that's the third Kang the Conqueror, and it works out great because anytime they need more, there are billions of timelines, so they can pick and choose the one they want and never actually have to kill him because there's billions to choose from.
Isn't that a daisy?
You start to get the idea that this whole Marvel's multiverse thing has gone down a road that is the epitome of stupid. Meanwhile, back at the TVA, the temporal loom is close to exploding, or something. And because they had hits on Renslayer's Tempad, Loki and Mobius know exactly where to find Renslayer and Miss Minutes. This is a long, convoluted episode of a stuttering Jonathan Majors that is utterly painful to watch as he gives one of the worst impressions of a stutter you've ever heard. At the 26-minute and 35-second mark in episode 3, we get a beautifully written scene. A cartoon clock, Miss Minutes, grows 50 feet tall in 1893. Now, I checked all of the old microfiche of all the Chicago newspapers at that time, and none of them even mentioned a giant cartoon clock, so I'm not buying it. No way.
What the fuck did I just hear?
The episode ends at Victor Timely's Wisconsin laboratory, where our cartoon clock, Miss Minutes, professes romantic love for him. Then Renslayer, Loki, Morbius, and Sylvie burst in, with Sylvie gaining control and threatening to kill Victor Timely. But she spares him. Sylvie allows Loki to take Victor Timely back to the TVA, and they send Renslayer and Miss Minutes to the Citadel at the end of time to see the withering corpse of He Who Remains, where Miss Minutes reveals that she knows a secret about Renslayer. Jonathan Majors' performance in this episode was dreadful and was held up to be some sort of example of his acting talents. Believe me, no one on this show is going to get a nod at the upcoming Emmy Awards. If you're a diehard fan of this show, the last thing you probably want to hear is someone ripping into it. But if you're watching the same thing everyone else is, how can you sing its praises? Did you see the 50-foot cartoon clock? And I don't care if it happens in the comic book or not. This script is a sloppy mess that relies on plot devices and coincidences to make sure the story elements come together. And those story elements do not work and border on the ridiculous. This is in keeping with what Disney Marvel has been producing in all of its streaming TV shows. The humor is mildly amusing at times, but it can be exhausting. There is a lack of coherent story with terrible dialogue that rambles on too long and characters that feel shallow and incomplete. I find it sad and disturbing that in the matter of a short few years, television has fallen down to this level. And that's all I have to say about Loki Season 2, Episodes 1, 2, and 3. If you like what you heard, I thank you for listening, and if you didn't, I thank you just the same.